in society. And we are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret societies, to secret oaths, and to secret proceedings.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of a scientific caste system.
We shall go on to the end. We shall fight with growing confidence and growing strength in the air. We shall never surrender.
Good day, everybody. This is UCY.tv with the Solvinur Event. If you go to UCY.tv, you will find lots of stuff available, among which Pick My News, for instance. But there is also a link to chat room. Please go there. You can ask questions there, which I will try to answer. And there's already a couple of people there, like Dan, Javad, did I read that correctly? Javadr, Java Doctor, like that. JJ, Jules, Lady Pitbull, hey, I missed ya. Not working today, haha, awesome. Dogs there, Victory through Veggies, Cap Gringo and 3 Unknowns. Welcome everybody. Excuse the coughing, but I don't have a mixer and don't have a coughing button. Alright, so I may cough now and then because I smoke like a ketter, as we say in Dutch. Yep, and I drink a lot of coffee. I hope you guys also have something to drink. Welcome Matty Clues, who also just entered. Missed you too, lady. So, it's the 13th of June 2015. Just past 4 p.m. in the Netherlands, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. Right, so let's roll a ciggy before we get started. If you want to join the broadcast, you can do so by contacting me with Skype, because that's how we make radio. Skype contact you need to get or have is Solvinur. There's only one Solvinur on Skype, so that's SOLVINUR. And if I'm not on your list already, send me a contact request, and we'll get you on air in case you want to talk about something. Doesn't matter what. So, I was thinking about getting back to the mythologies of ancient India today. And I recently found out that the Bhagavad Gita is a part of the Mahabharata. Now, I should rephrase that. I already knew that, but I just didn't know where exactly it was in the Mahabharata. And now I recently found out that it's in chapter 6. of the Mahabharata. So we'll probably be going there, unless you guys want to hear something else. If you want to hear something else, you can contact me at Solvinur, the number 2, at yahoo.com, and we'll see what we can do from there. I did, by the way, send out like 5 or 6 emails to people who I would like to have had on the radio. None of them responded. None. So that's too bad, but you know, I don't really care. It doesn't really matter that much. The last one I did, however, I got a very quick response, and the message was, well, he's going to Turkey, and he will be back in July, and so that's okay. I have to just resend the email in July, and we should get Robert Schoch on. Some of you may have heard me mention him before. I'm not that good with names, so I can't remember his name at the moment, but I had this quote-unquote alternative sir on about Egypt, about ancient Egypt, and he actually mentioned Robert Schoch to me. He's a geologist, and he did some research on the Sphinx and published his findings, and he was ridiculed, ad hominems thrown at him, you know, the usual garbage that you get from people when they have no arguments. And one of the things also said to Robert was that, well, even if this is true, that would be the only thing dating back as far as you say it does. And shortly after that, there was a new site found in Turkey, where he's right now, probably. And datings of that site, which is a site full of stone circles, much more intricate than Stonehenge, because those are basically just a couple of rocks, no printings on them or figures or anything. But the ones in Turkey actually have like animals on them, on these stones that make a stone circle, and there are many of them, more than 20. And it's also dated, way before civilization is supposed to have existed, according to the mainstream. Right? So that should be a good interview. But we'll get there when we get there. So, that's a cigarette. We should get into this part of the Mahabharata. Please excuse the tough language now and then, like thou and hast, you know. Alright, I should open another window. That's not so... Let's see, how do we do that? Another one, open another one, yes. Then go to UCY, and immediately click pause, shut up. Then click the UCY chat, and again click pause.
Tough language now.
There we go. Now this chat room, open that up in a new window, and click that away, use a legacy flash version, there. So, alright, now I can click this one away, put this one down below so I can actually keep an eye on the chat while we do the Mahabharata. Before I do this, I want to mention that I've been searching for a copyright-free version of the Bhagavad Gita, and you know, I was like busy for like 1.5 hours, right? Now that should tell you something. Why does it take 1.5 hours to find a non-copyrighted version of the Bhagavad Gita, and then it's fracking crap? It's useless, right? You'd think that this ancient writing shouldn't be copyrighted, right? If these so-called religious people want to spread their religion, as they themselves claim they do, then why would you copyright that? Right? You're basically not allowing me to spread the religion's faithful message because it's fracking copyrighted. So it's all about money. It has nothing to do with wanting to spread the good word, you know. But this translation is so old that there is no way they can copyright that anymore. Alright, so this is 100% copyright free, what I'm going to read to you, just so that you know. It's from sacredtexts.com, and this is from 1886, this translation. This section is called section 11. I think it's chapter 6. I need to make this window a bit smaller. There, now I got a better view on the chat. So if you guys have any questions, please type them in capital letters. They will stand out to me more directly. So, let's see, we've got another window? No, that's okay. This one is called Bhumi Parva. This is just before getting into the Bhagavad Gita. I think it's a good intro. So let's get this show on the road. Dhritarashtra. You've probably heard me say that name before if you've listened to me in the past. He's a king at this point. The timing is hard to say. Some say it's 5,000 years ago. Nowadays the translators of today claim that it's 7,000 years ago, that this Dhritarashtra actually is supposed to have existed, right? I consider all of this myth in the sense that they are allegories, right? None of this is supposed to be taken literally, right? Dhritarashtra said, "Thou hast, O Sanjaya," now there's another person, Sanjaya, and he's sitting right next to the king in the king's palace, and this Sanjaya has the ability to remote view what's going on at the battlefield. Alright, but we're not that far yet. "Thou hast, O Sanjaya, duly described Jamvukanda to me." That's a country or a place or an island, whatever. "Tell me now its dimensions and extent truly. Tell me also of the extent of the ocean of Sakadvipa and Kusadvipa, of Salmalit Vipa and Kraunchat Vipa. Alright, so probably all those Vipas are oceans. And it seems that they knew more of them. Truly, and without leaving anything, tell me also of Rahu and Soma and Surya. Alright, what the heck is Soma? Could be the moon, I'm not quite sure. Surya is probably the sun. I don't know what Rahu is, but Soma and Surya are the moon and the sun. Sanjaya said, there are, O king, many islands over which the earth extended. I will describe to thee, however, only 7 islands, and the moon and the sun, and the planet also. Alright, so the planet is Rahu. The Janvu mountain extends over full 18,600 yojanas. That's the measure they used, or maybe still use in India, as opposed to inches or meters. The extent of the salt ocean is said to be twice this. The ocean is covered with many kingdoms, and is adorned with gems and corals. It is besides decked with many mountains that are variegated, I've never seen that word, with metals of diverse kinds. So it could be, because this is, like I said at the beginning, none of this is supposed to be taken literally, right? But if you take these translations seriously, then you would have to ask yourselves, well, how would they have known about silk, for instance, or metals, right? If they actually use that word, right? How could they have not known about these things if they actually use these words? Assuming that this translation is valid. Thickly peopled by Siddhas and Charanas. Right? Those are kinds of humans. According to the Vedas, there are 400,000 kinds of humans. And that includes not only the people of Earth, but also on other planets throughout the universe. The ocean is circular in form. I will now tell thee truly of Sakadvipa. Listen to me, O son of the Kuru race, as I describe it to thee duly. That island is of twice the extent of Jambudvipa, and the ocean also is of twice the extent of that island. Indeed, Sakadvipa is surrounded on all sides by the ocean. Well, that's odd. I thought Sakadvipa was an ocean, so probably it's not. The kingdoms there are full of righteousness, and the men there never die. Right? Is he talking about an earthly island? Right? Because if they never die, they should still be around, right? Which is probably not the case here on Earth. How can famine take place there? The people are all endued with forgiveness and great energy. I have now given thee duly a brief description of Sakadvipa. What else dost thou wish to hear? Dhritarashtra says, Thou hast given me, O Sanjaya, a description of Sakadvipa in brief. O thou that art possessed of great wisdom, tell me now everything in detail. Sanjaya said, In that island there are 7 mountains that are decked with jewels, and that are mines of gems, precious stones. There are many rivers also in that land. Listen to me as I recount their names. Everything there is excellent and delightful. The first of these mountains is called Meru. Right? That's the most, at least to me, but probably also in India, the most well-known mythical mountain there is. Right? So the first of these mountains is called Meru. It is the abode of the gods, Rishis and Gandharvas. The next mountain is called Malaya, stretching towards the east. It is there that clouds are generated, and it is thence that they disperse on all sides. The next is the large mountain called Jaladhara. Thence Indra daily takes water of the best quality. Alright, so you can deduce from that Indra is living on the mountain called Jaladhara. Still today in India, they claim that in the Himalayas, gods are living, right? These mountain peaks. It is from that water that we get the showers in the season of rains. Next comes the high mountain called Raivataka, over which in the firmament has been permanently placed a constellation called Revati. Alright, so has been permanently placed. That means that it's pointing to the North Star. This arrangement has been made by the grandsire himself. Alright, that's it's spelled with a capital G, grandsire, so that would be Brahman. On the north side of this is the large mountain called Siama. It has the splendor of newly risen clouds, is very high, beautiful and bright of body, and since the hue of those mountains is dark, the people residing there are all dark in complexion. Dhritarashtra said, "A great doubt arises in my mind, O Sanjaya, from what thou hast said. Why, O Suta's son, would the people there be of dark complexion?" So I'm not the only one like, what? Sanjaya said, "O king, in all islands men may be found that are fair, and those that are dark, and those also that are produced by a union of the fair and dark races. But because the people there are all dark, therefore is that mountain called the Dark Mountain. After this is the large mountain called Durgasalya. And then comes the mountain called Kesari. The breezes that blow from the mountain are all charged with effluvia. Never heard of that word. Don't know what it is. The measure of each of these mountains is double that of the one mentioned immediately before. O thou of Kuru's race, it has been said by the wise that there are 7 Varshas in that island. The Varsha of Meru is called Mahakasha. That of the water-giving, Malaya, is called Kumudotara. The Varsha of Jaladhara is called Sakumara, while that of Raivitak is called Kaumara, and of Siama it is called Mani Kanchana. The Varsha of Kesara is called Mandaki, and that called after the next mountain is called Mahapuman. In the midst of that island is a large tree called Saka. In height and breadth, the measure of that tree is equal to that of the Jambu tree in Jambudvipa. Alright, so all those dvipas were not oceans, or lands, pieces of land. And the people there always adore that tree. Sounds a bit like the world tree from Nordic mythologies. There in that island are many delightful provinces where Shiva is worshipped, and thither repair the Siddhas, the Chandaras, and the Celestials. Repair? What the heck's going on? The people there are virtuous, and all the four orders are devoted their respective occupation. Alright, so that's a blatant hint at culture creation. Alright, says, O king, the people there and all the four orders are devoted to their respective occupation. Right, the four orders, you've probably heard me speak of these before. They are the Brahmanas at the top, which are the priests, today the scientists. Then the Kshatriyas, which is the army. Then the Vaishyas, which are economics. And then the Sudras, which are farmers. So you can see that as then, even like today, their society was split into four castes. That's how they call it, right? It's a caste system. No instance of theft can be seen there. Well, that's a contradiction. Elsewhere in the same scripture called the Mahabharata, you're all called thieves. Everybody's a thief according to these scriptures. Why? Because everything belongs to God, you know? And you're stealing His bread. You're stealing His water. That's exactly how they put it. So if these people were to survive, you know, they have to feed themselves, drink, and so they cannot be called not thieving. It's a contradiction. Freed from decrepitude. Jesus Christ, all these words that I have never heard about. Freed from, what is that? Decrepitude? No clue. And death, and gifted with long life. Right? So that's also like, how can you be freed from death and then have a long life? You know, a long life still means you're going to die at some point, right? If it's really freed from death, it should say immortal, not just long life. The people there, O king, grow like rivers during the season of rains. The rivers there are full of sacred water, and Ganga herself, distributed as she has been unto various currents, is there. Sakumari and Kumari and Seta and Keveraka and Mahanadi. O Kauravya. What the heck is that? I think that's another name for Dhritarashtra. And the river Manyala and Chaksus and the river Vardanika, O best of the Bharatas. These and many other rivers by thousands and hundreds are full of sacred water, and there, from which Vasava draws water for showering it as rain. It is impossible to recount the names and lengths of rivers. All of them are foremost of rivers and sin cleansing. Now another thing jumps to my mind is like, why is the king even asking here for the description of rivers and lands and such? As king of the world, as he is supposed to be in this myth, isn't he supposed to know that already? Now one might claim, well, he didn't know because he's blind. It's a blind king, can't even see. But still, they should have taught him that as a child, as a prince. As he heard by all men there, in that island of Saka are 4 sacred provinces. They are the Mrigas, the Masakas, the Manassas, and the Mandagas. The Mikras, for the most part, are Brahmanas devoted to the occupation of their order. Yeah. Amongst the Masakas are virtuous Kshatriyas, granting unto the Brahmanas every wish entertained by them. The Manassas, O king, live by following the duties of the Vaishya order, having every wish of theirs gratified. They are also brave and firmly devoted to virtue and profit. That's a nice one, isn't it? There's nothing wrong with profit, apparently. And why should it be, If the universe was created by God, and as furthermore is claimed by these same texts, that a perfect being cannot create imperfect things, which means that the universe has to be perfect, right? And it would have the same quality as the non-material world, as described by these same scriptures, has, which is an ever-growing property, right? Things just keep growing and growing indefinitely. So why would profit be a bad thing, right? There's enough of everything to go around. The Mandagas are all brave Sudras of virtuous behavior. In these provinces, O monarch, there is no king, no punishment, no person that deserves to be punished. Conversant with the dictates of duty, they are all engaged in the practice of their respective duties and protect one another. This much is capable of being said of the island called Saka. This much also should be listened to about that island endued with great energy. Right, that brings us to the next section. Section 12. Sanjaya said, O Kauravya, that which is heard about the islands in the north I will recount to thee, O great king. Thither in the north is the ocean whose waters are clarified butter. Then is the ocean whose waters are curds, whatever that is, C-U-R-D-S. Next comes the ocean whose waters are wine, and then is another ocean of water. The islands are double in area of one another as they proceed further and further towards the north. There's something about squaring these in these texts, right? If each one is double, that means 2, 4, 8, 16. Those are squares. Does that remind you of anything, guys? What does that remind you of when you see repeatedly these squares coming back in the text? Does it remind you of a certain brotherhood? The islands are double in area of one another as they proceed further and further towards the north, and they are surrounded by these oceans. In the island that is in the middle there is a large mountain called Gaura, made of red arsenic. On the west island is the mountain Krishna, that is the favorite abode of Narayana. There Kesava guardeth, and that's probably guards, right? There Kesava guards celestial gems, and thence inclined to grace he bestows happiness on creatures. Along with the kingdoms there, the celestial clump of Kusa grass in Kusadvipa and the Salmali tree on the island of Salmalika are adored. In the Krauncha island, also the mountain called Mahakrauncha, that is a mine of all kinds of gems. O king, always adored by all the four orders of men, there is a mountain called Gomanta, that is huge and consists of all kinds of metals, and whereon always resides, mingling with those that have been emancipated, the puissant Narayana, also called Hari, graced with prosperity and possessed of eyes like lotus leaves. Alright, so Narayana is a complete, full emanation, as it is something like that. It is described like 100% copy, so to say, of their quote-unquote God. And this person is traveling through the universe without the help of any ship or whatever. You know, he can do that. He doesn't have to breathe, or he doesn't splatter apart when he's going into space. In Kusadvipa, O King of Kings, there is another mountain variegated with corals and called after the name of that island itself. The mountain is inaccessible and made of gold. Possessed of great splendor, there is a third mountain there that is called Sumida. The sixth is called Harigiri. These are the six principal mountains. The intervening spaces between one another of these six mountains increases in the ratio of 1 to 2 as they proceed further and further towards the north. So what is it with these numbers? What are they trying to say there? The first Varsha is called Audido, the second is Venumandala, the third is called Surata, the fourth is known by the name of Kamvala, the fifth Varsha is called Dritimat, and the sixth is named Prabhakara, the seventh Varsha is called Kapila. These are the seven successive Varshas. In these, gods and Gandharvas and other creatures of the universe sport and take delight. Sport? In these varshas, the inhabitants never die. Right? So would these be material places? I doubt so very much. You know, according to the Vedas, of which the Mahabharata is a part, there are two kinds of worlds, which was copied by Plato, by the way. You know, Plato got his stuff from the Vedas, probably through Egypt. There are two kinds of worlds. There's a material world and a non-material world. That would be Plato's world of forms, the non-material part. And in the non-material part, there is no death, according to these books. Right? So if the inhabitants never die, that would be the non-material part of the whole creation, because the whole creation includes, according to these myths, the material world, which makes up 1/4 of the total manifestation, and 3/4 of non-material worlds. Right? And since in the material world everything dies, you know, these places would be non-material. There, O king, are no robbers, nor any tribes of mlechas. That would be like the unnameable fifth caste of outcasts. Yeah. All the residents are almost white in complexion and very delicate. Huh. Yeah. Can you say white supremacy? As regards the rest of the islands, O ruler of men, I will recount all that has been heard by me. Listen, O monarch, with an attentive mind, in the Krauncha island, O great king, there is a large mountain called Krauncha. Next to Krauncha is Vamanaka. And next to Vamanaka is Andhakara. And next to Andhakara is the excellent mountain called Mainaka. After Mainaka is the best of mountain called Govinda. And after Govinda is the mountain called Nivida. O multiplier of thy race. Yeah. You could say that. He had like 100 sons, right, according to the myth. The intervening spaces between one another of these mountains increases in the ratio of 1 to 2. So it's double, right? Again. I will now tell thee the countries that lie there. Listen to me as I speak of them. The region near Krauncha is called Kusala. That near Vamanaka is called Manunuga, something like that. The region next to Manunuga, or perpetuer of Kuru race, is called Ushna. After Ushna is Pravaraka, and after Pravaraka is Andhakaraka. The country after Andhakaraka is named Munidesa. After Munidesa, the region is called Dunbu Bishvana, teeming with Siddhas and Charanas. Hey listener, welcome to the chat room. The people are almost white in complexion. Again. O king, all these countries are the habitations of gods and Gandharvas. You know, I'm starting to wonder where Darwin, got his idea that these white people in Sweden, Norway, are actually classified as the best race on earth. Where did he get that idea from, huh? In the island of Pushkara is a mountain called Pushkara that abounds with jewels and gems. There always dwells the divine Prajapati himself. Him, all the gods and great rishis always adore with gratifying words and worship reverently. Huh. O king, diverse gems from Jambudvipa are used there. How are they used? In all these islands, O king, brahmacharya, truth and self-control of the dwellers, as also their health of periods of life, are in the ratio of 1 to 2, as the islands are more and more remote. Again. Yeah, well, that's the exoteric. I'm commenting on the chat room now. That's the exoteric. Then there's also an esoteric explanation of what alchemy actually is. Blackland, right? Type in alchemy in Blackland. That would get you more into what the ancients actually thought of alchemy. O king, the land in those islands, O Bharata, comprises but one country, for that is said to be the one country in which one religion is met with. The supreme Prajapati himself, upraising the rod, right? Upraising the rod, think of the Bible, of chastisement, always dwells there, protecting those islands. He, O monarch, is the king. He is their source of bliss. He is the father and he is the grandfather. It is, O best of men, that protects all creatures there, mobile or immobile. Cooked food, O Kaurava, comes there of itself, and the creatures eat it daily. Oh, that's odd. O mighty armed one, after these regions is seen a habitation of the name of Sama. It is of a starry shape having 4 corners, and it has 33 mandalas. Reminds you again of the Brotherhood, right? This is not the first time these texts remind me of this secretive brotherhood. There dwell, O Kaurava, 4 princely elephants adored by all. Elephants? Princely elephants? Is that a reason why Shiva's son has an elephant head? They are, O best of the Bharatas, Vamana, Airavata, and another, and also Supratika, and another? All of a sudden he can't remember the name, or what? O king, with rent cheeks and mouths, I do not mouths, just slash the S there. I do not venture to calculate the proportion of these 4 elephants, their lengths, breadth, and thickness have forever remained unascertained. Socrates was closer to the truth of what, actually? Commenting on the chat again. You know, these ancient philosophers like Plato and Aristotle and Socrates. You know, how can you even claim that they were closer to the truth? You know, they could be seen as primitives by us nowadays, right? Because, you know, using the trivium method, how much grammar did they have available to piece together, using their logic, to come up with a cogent body of knowledge? Right? If you're talking about truth, you're talking about knowledge. Their grammar was so far less than we have today. You know, how can you even consider that they were close to the truth or closer to the truth? There are a bunch of religious nut jobs, most of them, even Aristotle. You know, the things that are accredited to him also speak of quote-unquote God. You know, there in those regions, O king, wind blows irregularly from all directions. These are seized by those elephants with the tips of their trunks, which are the complexion of the lotus, and endued with great splendor and capable of drawing up everything in their way. Yes, that's Socrates' method, Dan. Just asking questions. But do you know why he asked these questions? Why he just kept on asking and asking? It's because he wanted the people that he was talking to come to a basic conclusion, to come to a basis of where they draw their knowledge from, right? Deduction. Oh yeah, is that so? I'm talking about Aristotle. I'm not sure about Socrates. Yeah, and I get these names confused also. But that's the reason why he kept asking questions, to get to a base from which you can deduce. And it turned out that people just had no clue, right? That's why he was asking all these questions. He just kept asking and asking. And what came out of that was that they didn't have enough grammar to build a fracking basis from which to draw deductions. Right? By asking all these questions, he basically, proved that they didn't know that much at all. And soon after seizing them, they then always let them out. The winds, O king, thus let out by those respiring elephants, came over the earth, and in consequence thereof creatures draw breath and life. All right, so the winds actually are the effect of the earth turning around its axis. There's nothing to do with elephants. Dhritarashtra said, "Thou hast, O Sanjaya, told me everything about the first subject very elaborately. Thou hast also indicated the positions of the islands. So tell me now about what remains." Sanjaya said, "Indeed, O great king, the islands have all been described to thee. Listen now to what I truly say about the heavenly bodies and about Svarbhanu, O chief of the Kauravas, as regards its dimensions. It is heard, O king, that the planet Svarbhuna is globular. Its diameter is 12,000 yojanas, and its circumference, because it is very large, is 42,000 yojanas. O sinless one, as said by the learned of olden times, the diameter of the moon is stated to be 11,000 yojanas. Its circumference, O chief of the Kurus, is stated to be 38,900 yojanas of the illustrious planet of cool rays. It has been heard that the diameter of the beneficent, fast-going and light-giving sun, O thou of Kauru race, is 10,000 yojanas, and this circumference is 35,800 miles. Now they're all of a sudden talking in miles? We can actually check that. That doesn't seem right. That seems way too small. Circumference of the sun. Now I need to, let's see, copy that. Copy. Google. Paste that. Circumference of the sun. 4.4 million kilometers. It says circumference of the sun. Let's see. Blah blah. Diameter is 1.4. Yeah, circumference around 4.4 million kilometers. Now, what does it say in the text? 35,800 miles. So that doesn't compute, right? And there's a contradiction. Which is it? So keep in mind, you know, that that there are translators out there, you know, that still believe that when the sun is blacked out, you know, because the moon is passing in front of it, they still think that, oh, it's a big dragon and he's coming to eat the sun. And these people will actually claim that the moon is further away than the sun. Right, so that would also be one source of this contradiction. In the fast-going and light-giving sun is 10,000 yojanas, and his circumference is 35,800 miles, in consequence of his largeness, O sinless one. These are the dimensions reckoned here. O Bharata of Arka. So he's from Arka somehow, whatever that is. The planet Rahu, in consequence, planet Rahu, think of Ra, right? The planet Rahu, in consequence of his greater bulk, envelops both the sun and the moon in due times. Say what? If it's bigger than the sun and the moon, how come we're not revolving around this Rahu, right? Because if that planet is not only bigger, but also made of more dense material than the sun, the sun would be revolving around that planet. That doesn't make any sense at all. I tell thee this in brief, with the eye of science. Yeah. O great king, I have now told thee all that thou hast asked. Let peace be thine. I have now told thee about the construction of the universe as indicated in the Shastras. Therefore, O Kaurava, pacify thy son Duryodhana. He's asking Dhritarashtra to pacify his son because Duryodhana is about to start the war, which we're going to talk about extensively. Right, back to the chat. This last paragraph. Having listened to this charming Bhumiparva, O chief of the Bharatas, a Kshatriya becomes endued with prosperity, obtains fruition of all his desires, and wins the approbation of the righteous. The king who listens to this on days of the full moon or the new moon, carefully observing vows all the while, has the period of his life, his fame and energy all enhanced. His sires and grandsires become gratified. Thou hast now heard of all the merits that flow from this Varsha of Bharata, where we now are. Alright, there's a couple of footnotes here, but I'm going to skip those. This is the next section, section 13, which is called Bhagavad Gita Parva. So now we're supposed to get into the Bhagavad Gita, and I do not expect verses as they appear in the Bhagavad Gita itself, which you can buy as a book, but we will see what this brings us. So it's 2 minutes past 5 p.m. in the Netherlands, which means it's just past 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is UCY.tv with the Solvinur Event, and you can still come on air if you like by contacting me via Skype at Solvinur, that's SOLVINUR, and I will get you on air. There's a couple of people in the chat already, which you can get to by going to ucy.tv. Find among all the other great things that are there the chat link. Anon37 is back. How you doing, buddy? Dan is there. Grump44, good to see you. Java Doctor still there. JJ. Jules. Lady Pitbull. Matty Clues. There's Dog, there's Victory through Vegetables, who has made his way back. Liza is there, Iota, Gringo, and 2 Anons. Welcome everybody. So, I'm your host, Solvinur. That's my call sign. Yeah, I'm still, now and then I watch back Battlestar Galactica, and the pilots there have call signs, right? Like Athena, for instance. Fracking Cylon that she is. So my call sign is Solvinur. My name is Wouter, that translates into English as Walter. And every week, Saturdays, 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, I hijack the American airwaves and bring you whatever it is that I bring you. Sometimes it's mythology, other times it's trivium, sometimes I even talk about 9/11, and sometimes I remember things about the USS Liberty. Right? Last 8th was the anniversary. Come on, light up. Of the Israeli attack on the USS Liberty. In case you've never heard about that, go check it out. Type it into Google, USS Liberty. Alright, let's get this on the road. Vaisampayana said, possessing a knowledge of the past, the present and the future, and seeing all things as if present before his eyes, the learned son of Gavalgana, coming quickly from the field of battle and rushing with grief, represented unto Dhritarashtra, who was plunged in thought that Bhishma, the grandsire of Bharata, had been slain. Alright, so this is kind of confusing to me because that's not how it starts. This is way in the last parts of the war. So, but we'll see what we get. Sanjaya said. So this is the Sanjaya who can actually see the past, the present, and the future. Right? That doesn't make sense. Why doesn't it make sense? Because if you can actually see the future, it would mean that it's determined, and that's impossible because people have free will. Sanjaya said, I am Sanjaya, O king, I bow to thee, O bull of the Bharata race. Bhishma, the son of Santanu and the grandsire of the Bharatas, has been slain. That foremost of all warriors, the grandsire of the Bharatas, has been slain. That foremost of all warriors, you just said that. Why would you repeat that? That embodied energy of all bowmen, right? He was a teacher of Arjuna, I think. That grandsire of the Kurus lies today on a bed of arrows. Right, so this is about 3/4 of the war, into 3/4 of the war, which supposedly took 18 days. That Bhishma, O king, relying on whose energy thy son had been engaged in that match of dice, now lies on the field of battle slain by Sikandin. Sikandin had made a vow to slay Bhishma because Bhishma had been kind of nasty to her. And so he incarnated as a man because only man can fight on battlefields. I'm talking those days right now, right? That mighty car warrior who on a single car had vanquished and in terrific combat at the city of Kasi all the kings of the earth mustered together, because he was invincible. Right? Bhishma is known as the invincible warrior. So why, is he now lying on a bed of arrows about to die? Well, even as he was pierced by all these arrows, he still wouldn't die. And this is because he had performed actions in the past which led to the gods giving him a boon. And this boon was that he would only die if he wished to. Right? So that's why he was actually invincible. And at a certain point, when the Sikandin came before him, he chose to be defeated. Right? So He who had fearlessly fought in battle with Rama, the son of Jamadagni, he whom Jamadagni's son could not slay, or even has he been today slain by Sikandin, resembling the great Indra himself in bravery, and Himavat in firmness, like unto the ocean itself in gravity, and the earth herself in patience. That invincible warrior, having arrows for his teeth, that bow for his mouth, and the sword for his tongue, that lion among men, has today been slain by the prince of Panchala. That slayer of heroes, beholding whom, when addressed for battle, the mighty army of the Pandavas, unmanned by fear, used to tremble like a herd of kine when beholding a lion. I either read that sentence wrong, or it's just me that doesn't understand it. Alas, having protected that army for 10 nights, and having achieved feats exceedingly difficult of accomplishment, has set like the sun, with a U. He who, like Sakra himself, scattering arrows in thousands, with the utmost composure, daily slew 10,000 warriors for 10 days. Even he slain by the enemy lieth through, though he deserves it not, on the bare ground, like a mighty tree broken by the wind, in consequence, O king, of thy evil counsels, O Bharata. Brings to the next section. Dhritarashtra says, how has Bhishma, that bull among the Kurus, been slain by Sikandin? How did my father, who resembles Vasava himself, fall down from his car? What became of my sons, O Sanjaya, when they were deprived of that mighty Bhishma, who was like unto a celestial, and who led life of brahmacharya for the sake of his father? Upon the fall of that tiger among men, I thought he was a lion, who was endued with great wisdom, great capacity for exertion, great might and great energy, how did our warriors feel? Hearing that bull amongst, now he's a bull, the Kurus, that foremost of men, that unwavering hero is slain, great is the grief that pierces my heart. While advancing against the foe, who followed him and who proceeded ahead, who stayed by his side, who proceeded with him, what brave combatants followed behind, protecting his rear, that tiger among car warriors, the charioteer, right? Why is the word car used here? It's a fracking chariot, like the Romans used. What warrior opposed that slayer of foes, resembling the luminary of 1,000 rays, who, spreading terror among the foe, destroyed their ranks like the sun destroying darkness, and who achieved in battle amongst the ranks of Pandu's sons feats exceedingly difficult of accomplishment? Right, so Dhritarashtra is the son of, is the father of Duryodhana, who is painted as the bad guy in this story. And Bhishma, who was the, if I remember all of this correct, who was the teacher of Arjuna, is actually on the other side. So it's Arjuna against Duryodhana. This is a reason why Arjuna at the beginning of the battle refused to fight, because he saw his teachers standing on the other side of the battlefield, who he was going to have to fight. And he didn't want to do that. How indeed, O Sanjaya, did the Pandavas oppose? All right, so the Pandavas, that would be the 5 brothers. Did the Pandavas oppose in battle the son of Santanu, that accomplished and invincible warrior, when he approached them smiting, slaughtering the hostile ranks, having arrows for his teeth and full of energy, with the bow for his wide open mouth, and with the terrible sword for his tongue, and invincible, and very tiger among men, endued with modesty, and never before vanquished. Alas, how did Kunti's son overthrow in battle that unconquered one, undeserving as he was of such a fate? That fierce bowman, shooting fierce shafts, stationed on his excellent, it says car, I'm going to read chariot, and plucking off the heads of foes from their bodies. Right? If you watch the movie that is out there, I still think it's available on YouTube, called the Mahabharata, and I don't mean the almost endless series of the Mahabharata that is also available, but I mean the one by Peter Brooks. You can see Bhishma being carried on what seems more like a raft, and he has I think 4 people on each side holding up this raft, and he's just standing on, some wood. There's no actual chariot there. Continuing, that warrior, irresistible as the Yuga fire, beholding whom had dressed for battle the great army of the Pandavas, always used to waver, mangling the hostile troops for 10 nights. Alas, that slayer of ranks has set like the sun, having achieved feats difficult of achievement. He who, scattering like Sakra himself, an inexhaustible shower of arrows, slew in battle 100 million of warriors in 10 days. That's a lot of people. That scion of Bharata's race now lies, although he deserves it not, on the bare ground in the field of battle, deprived of life, a mighty tree uprooted by the winds as a result of my evil counsels. Beholding, as a result of your evil counsels, you should have listened to your advisors and stopped this war from beginning in the first place, right? It's because you, Dhritarashtra, wouldn't go against your son. Beholding Santanu's son, Bhishma, of terrible prowess, how indeed could the army of the Pandavas succeed in smiting him there? How did the sons of Pandu, battle with Bhishma? How is it, O Sanjaya, that Bhishma could not conquer when Drona lived? And then another invincible character of that saga, Sir Drona. When Kripa again was near him, and Drona's son, Ashvatam, also, how could Bhishma, that foremost of smiters, be slain? How could Bhishma, who was reckoned as an Atirata, whatever that is, and who could not be resisted by the very gods, be slain in battle by Sikandin, the prince of Panchala? He, who always regarded himself as the equal of the mighty son of Jamadagni in battle, he whom Jamadagni's son himself could not vanquish, he who resembled Indra himself in prowess. Alas, O Sanjaya, tell me how that hero, Bhishma, born of the race of Maharathas, was slain in battle, for without knowing all the particulars I cannot regain my equanimity. What great bowman of army, O Sanjaya, did not desert that hero of unfading glory? What heroic warriors, again at Duryodhana's command, stood around that hero for protecting him? When all the Pandavas placing Sikandin in their van? It literally says that. Maybe it's a typo, but let's see. When all the Pandavas placing Sikandin in their van advanced against Bhishma, did not all the Kurus, O Sanjaya, stay by the side of that hero of unfading prowess? Hard is my heart. Surely it must be made of adamant, for it breaks not on hearing the death of that tiger among men. In that irresistible bull of Bharata race were truth and intelligence and policy to an immeasurable extent. Alas, how was he slain in battle? Just keep asking that, right? Like unto a mighty cloud of high altitude, having the twang of his bowstring for its roar, his arrows for its raindrops, and the sound of his bow for its thunder, that hero showering his shafts on Kunti's sons, those are the 5 Pandavas, with the Panchalas and the Srinjayas on their side, smote hostile chariot warriors like the slayer of Vala smiting the Danavas. Who were the heroes that resisted, like the bank resisting the surging sea, that chastiser of foes, who was a terrible ocean of arrows and weapons, an ocean in which shafts were irresistible crocodiles and bows were the waves, an ocean that was inexhaustible, without an island, agitated and without a raft to cross it, in which maces and swords were like sharks, and steeds and elephants like eddies, and foot soldiers like fishes in abundance, and the sound of conches and drums like its roar, and ocean that swallowed horses and elephants and foot soldiers quickly, an ocean that devoured hostile heroes and that seethed with wrath and energy which constituted its Yadava fire. So it's probably an ocean and not an ocean, anyway. When for Duryodhana's good that slayer of foes, Bhishma, achieved terrible feats in battle, who were then in his van? Who were they that protected the right wheel of that warrior of immeasurable energy? One could ask, why would you need protection at all if he's so invincible, right? Who were they that, mustering patience and energy, resisted hostile heroes from his rear, who stationed themselves in his near front for protecting him? Who were those heroes that protected the fore-wheel of that brave warrior while he battled with the foe? Fore-wheel? Not as in 4 as in the number, but in front of. Who were they that stationed themselves by his left wheel, smote the Srinjayas? Who were they that protected the irresistible advance ranks of his van? Who protected the wings of that warrior who has made the last painful journey? And who, O Sanjaya, fought with hostile heroes in the general engagement? If he was protected by our heroes, and if they were protected by him, Why could he not then speedily vanquish in battle the army of the Pandavas, invincible though it be? Indeed, O Sanjaya, how could the Pandavas succeed even in striking Bhishma, who was like Parameshti himself, that lord and creator of all creatures? Thou tells me, O Sanjaya, if the disappearance of that Bhishma, that tiger among men, who was our refuge and relying upon whom the Kurus were fighting with their foes, that warrior of mighty strength relying on whose energy my son had never reckoned, the Pandavas, alas, how has he been slain by the enemy? Yeah, ask another 10 times. When will you stop and receive an answer? In days of yore, all the gods, while engaged in slaying the Danavas, sought the aid of that invincible warrior, my father of high vows, that foremost of sons, endued with great energy, and whose birth the whole world renowned Santanu, abandoned all grief, melancholy, and sorrows. How canst thou tell me, O Sanjaya, that the celebrated hero, the great refuge of all, that wise and holy personage, who was devoted to the duties of his order, Kshatriya, and conversant with the truths of the Vedas and their branches, has been slain? Blah, blah. Let's see, where's my tobacco? I'm gonna roll another ciggy here. Now, I'm kind of having trouble with this last sentence here. It says, conversant with the truths of the Vedas and their branches. Alright? Now, because he's a Kshatriya, he's been instructed by the Brahmanas as to what his duties are. The Brahmanas are the ones who know all of the Vedas. And they would never tell all of the Vedas to a Kshatriya. They would only tell a Kshatriya what a Kshatriya needs to know. Not all of it, because then a Kshatriya would know what it is to be a Brahmana. Alright, see. There we go. Let's see, where were we? Accomplished in every weapon and endued with humility, gentle and with passions under full control, and possessed of great energy as he was. Hearing that son of Santanu slain, I regard the rest of my army as already slain. Yeah. In my judgment, unrighteousness has now become stronger than righteousness, for the son of Pandu desires sovereignty, even by killing their venerable superior. Huh? You get that? The sons of Pandu, they want a claim to the land that is lawfully theirs, and they were taught by the very people they are fighting against. So they would be their superiors, right? In days of yore, Jamadagni's son Rama, who was acquainted with every weapon and whom none excelled, when addressed for battle on behalf of Amvya, was vanquished by Bhishma in combat. Thou tellst me that Bhishma, who was the foremost of all warriors, and who resembled Indra himself in the feats he achieved, has been slain? What can be a greater grief to me than this? Endued with great intelligence, he that was not slain even by that slayer of hostile heroes, Rama, the son of Jamadagni, who defeated in battle crowds of Kshatriyas repeatedly, has now been slain by Sikandin. Without doubt, Drupada's son Sikandin, therefore, who has slain in battle that bull of Bharata's race, that hero acquainted with the highest weapons, that brave and accomplished warrior conversant with every weapon, is superior in energy, prowess, and might to the invincible Bhargava endued with the highest energy. Alright, so Sikandin is nothing but a lowly warrior. What stands out to me is the fact that in this story, in this saga, Dhritarashtra just accepts the word that Bhishma is slain. Right? He considers it a fact, even though it seems impossible. In that encounter of arms, who were the heroes that followed that slayer of foes? Tell me how the battle was fought between Bhishma and the Pandavas. The armies of my son, O Sanjana, reft of its hero, is like an unprotected woman. Indeed, the army of mine is like a panic-struck herd of kine reft of its herdsman. He in whom resided prowess superior to that of everyone, when he was laid low on the field of battle, what was the state of mind of my army? What power is there, O Sanjaya, in our life, when we have caused our father of mighty energy, that foremost of righteous men in the world, to be slain? Like a person desirous of crossing the sea, when he beholds the boat sunk in fathomless waters, alas, my sons, I ween, are bitterly weeping from grief on Bhishma's death. My heart is surely made of adamant, for it rendeth not even after hearing the death of Bhishma, that tiger among men. That bull among men, in whom were weapons, intelligence, and policy to an immeasurable extent. How has that invincible warrior been slain in battle? Neither in consequence of weapons, nor of courage, nor of ascetic merit, nor of intelligence, or firmness, or gift can a man free himself from death. Indeed, time, endued with great energy, is incapable of being transgressed by anything in the world. When thou tells me that Santanu's son Bhishma is dead, burning with grief on account of my sons, in fact overwhelmed with great sorrows, I had hoped for relief from Bhishma, the son of Santanu. When he beheld Santanu's son, lying on the earth like the sun, dropped from the firmament, what else was belonging to my side and that of the enemy, and now mustered in the opposing ranks of battle? Alas, cruel are the duties of the Kshatriya order as laid down by the Rishis, since the Pandavas are desirous of sovereignty, by even compassing the death of Santanu's son. And we also are desirous of sovereignty by offering up that hero of high vows as a sacrifice. The son of Pritha, as also my sons, are all in the observance of Kshatriya duties. They therefore incur no sin by doing this. Well, that's interesting, right? This is like saying a man who acts according to his nature cannot commit sin. It's, tough subject. That would equate all of the psychopaths of their misbehavings. I do not believe in the concept of sin. However, there are such things as what is right and what is wrong, right? Even a righteous person should do this, O Sanjaya, when direful calamities come. The display of prowess and the exhibition of the utmost might have been laid down among the duties of the Kshatriyas. How indeed did the sons of Pandu oppose my father Bhishma, the son of Santanu, that unvanquished hero endued with modesty? Not quite sure if actually Dhritarashtra is a son of Bhishma. I doubt that very much. But as in Hindu mythology you have like 7 mothers, you probably have more fathers as well. Figuratively speaking, right? How were the troops arrayed, and how did the battle with high-souled foes? How did he battle with high-souled foes? High-souled? There's another kind of contradiction. As I said before, according to these myths, God is perfect, and he cannot create something that is not perfect, right? And, according to their own myths, you are a soul created by him, or her, whatever, by it, by quote-unquote God. So if you're perfect, that means there can be no, low soul or high soul or middle soul. You're all souls, perfect, and the same. At least in qualities, right? You're even the same as God himself, according to these stories, according to the myth. With the only difference being the quantity, right? You got the same qualities, but not the quantities. How, O Sanjaya, was my father Bhishma slain by the enemy? Duryodhana and Karna and the deceitful Sakuni, the son of Suvala, and Dusasana also. What did they say when Bhishma was slain? There, where the dice board is constituted by the bodies of men, elephants and steeds, and where arrows and javelins and large swords and bearded darts from the dice. What is it with these dice? Entering that frightful mansion of destructive battle play, sounds like a game of Risk, right? Who were those wretched gamblers, those Bulamang men that gambled, making their very lives the frightful stakes? This is a confusing bit. Who won? Who were vanquished? Who cast the dice successfully? That's insane, right? And who have been slain besides Bhishma, the son of Santanu? Tell me all, O Sanjaya, for peace cannot be mine, hearing that Devavrata has been slain. That father of mine, of terrible deeds, that ornament of battle, Bhishma, keen anguish has penetrated my heart, born of the thought that all my children would die. Thou makest that grief of mine blaze forth like fire by pouring clarified butter on it. My sons, I ween, are even now grieving, beholding Bhishma slain. Bhishma celebrated in all worlds, and who had taken upon himself a heavy burden. I will listen to all those sorrows arising from Duryodhana's acts. No, not acts, but act. Therefore tell me, O Sanjaya, everything that happened there, everything that happened in the battle, born of the folly of my wicked son. Now his son is all of a sudden wicked? He never considered his son wicked before. He was even making excuses for his son's actions in the stories that I've been told and read. Ill-ordered or well-ordered, tell me everything, O Sanjaya. Whatever was achieved with the aid of energy in the battle by Bhishma, desirous of victory, by that warrior accomplished in arms. Tell me all fully in detail. How, in fact, the battle took place between the armies of the Kurus and the manner in which each happened. Right, so we should probably, if he's asking for all of what happened, maybe we are going to get to the beginning of the battle, like 10 days earlier. We will see. We're heading to the next section 15. Sanjaya said, deserving as thou art, this question is, indeed, worthy of thee. It behooves thee not, however, to impute this fault to Duryodhana, the man who incurs evil as the consequence of his own misconduct. Should not attribute that misconduct to others. O great king, the man that does every kind of injury to other men deserves to be slain by all men in consequence of those censurable deeds of his. Censurable. The Pandavas, unacquainted with the ways of wickedness, had, for a long time, with their friends and counselors, looking up to thy face, borne the injuries done to them and forgiven them, dwelling in the woods. I wouldn't say that the Pandavas are unacquainted with the ways of wickedness. They had been, quote-unquote, victims, even before the war, of many wicked tricks, and one would think you would learn of those, right? How are you supposed to defeat an evil enemy if you don't know their ways, right? That's why they say, when having a fight, like some people in the so-called truth movement say, oh, we're battling the New World Order. Think of AJ, right? That's why it is that it is said that you become evil if you fight evil. Of steeds, of elephants and kings, of immeasurable energy, that which has been seen by the aid of the yoga power. Hear, O Lord of Earth, King of the Earth, and do not set thy heart on sorrow. All this was predestined, it says here. Reminds me of Battlestar Galactica again. They also have this sacred book. And in the book of Pita, I believe it's called, it says, all of this has happened before and all of it will happen again. Yeah. All of this was predestined. That, just doesn't make any sense. It would deprive us of free will, which would constitute another contradiction, because God created you with all of his own properties, one of which is free will. God can do whatever he wants, and so can you. So predestination is impossible. Right? More contradictions. Having bowed down to thy father, that wise and high-souled, son of Parasara, though through whose grace, through whose boon bestowed on me, I have obtained excellent and celestial apprehension, sight beyond the range of visual sense and hearing. Right? And remember, I told you he was remote viewing the battlefield while he was in the palace of the king. O king, from great distance, knowledge of other people's hearts, and also of the past and the future, a knowledge also of the origin of all persons transgressing the ordinances, the delightful power of coursing through the skies, the untouchableness by weapons in battles, listen to me in detail as I recite the romantic and highly wonderful battle that happened between the Bharatas, a battle that makes one's hair stand on end. When the combatants were arrayed according to rule, and when they were addressed for battle, Duryodhana, O king, said these words to Dushasana. O Dushasana, let cars, or chariots, be speedily directed for protection of Bhishma. Now, why would you do that if this Bhishma is invincible, right? And do thou speedily urge all our divisions to advance. One would say, let those cars speedily be directed for protection of Bhishma. You could probably better say, let those cars speedily be directed to Bhishma for protection by Bhishma, right? Because he's supposed to be the invincible one. Yes, Dan, that's what I was referring to. He who fights with monsters should look to it that he himself does not become a monster. When you gaze long into the abyss also gazes into you. Friedrich Nietzsche. Alright? That's what I was referring to. Very well, Dan. Blah blah. Where were we? And do thou speedily urge all our divisions to advance. That has now come to me, of which I had been thinking for a series of years. The meeting of the Pandavas and the Kurus at the head of their respective troops. I do not think that there is any act more important for us in this battle than the protecting of Bhishma. If protected, he will slay the Pandavas, the Somakas, and the Srinjayas. That warrior of pure soul said, I will not slay Shikandin. It is heard that he was a female before. For this reason he should be renounced by me in battle. For this Bhishma should be particularly protected. Let all my warriors take up their positions, resolved to slay Shikandin. Let also all the troops from the east, the west, the south, and the north, accomplished in every kind of weapon, protect the grandsire. Even the lion of mighty strength, if left unprotected, may be slain by the wolf. Yep. Let us not therefore cause Bhishma to be slain by Shikandin, like the lion slain by the jackal. Yudamanyu protects the left wheel, and Utamauja protects the right wheel of Palguni. Protected by those two, Palguni himself protects Shikandin. O Dusasana, act in such a way that Shikandin, who is protected by Palguni and whom Bhishma will renounce, may not slay Ganga's son. Right? So Bhishma is the son of Ganga. Ganga is a river in India, but this river is personified and comes out like a woman. And the woman was in a relationship with a king, and from that Bhishma was born. This brings us to the next section. Let's see, what did it say in the footnotes here? Vijatita is a very doubtful word. I'm not sure. Did we even read that word? Footnotes. Next section, section 16. We've got about 10 minutes left. Sanjaya said, when the night had passed away, loud became the noise made by the kings, all exclaiming, "Array, array!" with the blare of conscious, and the sound of drums that resembled lion-like roars, O Bharata, with the neigh of steeds and the clatter of chariots, with the noise of elephants and the shouts, clapping of armpits, and crying of roars and cries of roaring combatants, combat ants. The din caused everywhere was very great. The large army of the Kurus and the Pandavas, O king, rising at sunrise, completed all their arrangements. Right, so apparently there were like rules of war in those days, and one of the rules was that the war starts when the sun rises and it ends when the sun sets. Right, so supposedly there is no battle being performed after the sun sets. That's one of the rules. Another rule I remember is that if you're fighting on the battlefield with a club, and you come into contact with with your enemy who also has a club, you're not allowed to strike him on the legs, and you're also not allowed to strike him when he's lying down. Right? These are apparently, according to the myth anyway, the rules of engagement in this war. There are more of those rules, but I just remember these two off the top of my head. Then when the sun rose, the fierce weapons of attack and defense, and the coats of mail of both thy sons and the Pandavas, so apparently even had mail in those days, O king, rising at sunrise, that's what I just did. Then when the sun rose, the fierce weapons of attack and defense and the coats of mail of both thy sons and the Pandavas, and the large... why am I missing it all the time? And the large and splendid armies of both sides came fully visible. Their elephants and cars, adorned with gold, looked resplendent like clouds mingled with lightning. Resplendent means glittering. The ranks of cars standing in profusion looked like cities, and thy father stationed there shone brilliantly, like the full moon, and the warriors armed with bows and swords, and scimitars and maces, javelins and lances, and bright weapons of diverse kinds, took up their positions in their respective ranks. Right, so it does look like we're actually getting to the beginning of the battle here. And resplendent standards were seen, set up by thousands of diverse forms, belonging to both ourselves and the foe, and made of gold and decked with gems and blazing like fire. Those banners in thousands, endued with great effulgence, looked beautiful like heroic combat ants, cased in mail, gazed at those standards, looking for battle, and many, foremost of men, with eyes large as those of bulls, endued with quivers, and with hands cased in leather fences, stood at the heads of their divisions, with their bright weapons upraised, and Suvala's son, Sakuni, and Salya, Jayadratha, and the two princes of Avanti named Vinda and Anuvinda, and the Kaya brothers, and Sadukshina, the ruler of the Kamvoyas, and Shrutayadu, the ruler of the Kalingas, and King Jayatsena, and Vridhavala, the ruler of Kosalas. So it goes on a bit like this. These are all kingdoms, right? And this is taking place in India. And I've told you this before, but you know, before India was united, it consisted of many, many, many kingdoms. And it was also told to me that sometimes these kingdoms were given away to princes. And what the prince then becoming king usually did when he became king of a certain part of India, he would study the population there. And why did he do that? Because he had to be in control of them. You see? He had to know what kind of morals these people had, what gods they worshipped, and so on, so that he could best control them. That's what kings are for. They are for controlling people. Mind control. And Kritavarnam of Satvata's race, those 10 tigers among men, endued with great bravery and possessing arms that looked like maces. These performers of sacrifices, with plentiful gifts to Brahmanas, stood each at the head of an akshauhini of troops. Akshauhini is one measurement. I think we did this like a couple of months ago. We talked about what a regiment actually consisted of. This Akshahinis is one element of that. These and many other kings and princes, I'm reading car warriors again, let's just say chariots, right? Mighty chariots conversant with policy, policy of war, what? Or what? Obedient to the commands of Duryodhana. Oh, it's 58. Eek! I'm gonna have to check the chat, do a last roll call, thank everybody for listening, cause my outro is about to kick in. Anon 37, Dan, Java, JJ, Jules, Lady Pitbull, Meticlus, Victory,
Secrecy is repugnant.
Liza,
In open society.
and two
We are
Anons.
as a people, inherently and historically.
Thanks for listening, everybody. Take care. See you next week.
I think a new world order is emerging.
An inside job? How dare you? How dare you?
To create, so to say, mass-produced models of human beings arranged in some kind of scientific